control what you can, right? And you're in a situation where you can control yourself. You cannot control what your ex does or what's happening with your ex, but you can control yourself and your own energy, right? And being very aware of the energy that you are creating as it relates to this part of your life. Hi friends, welcome back. You'll notice things look a little different today. So today we have our first batch of questions from the audience, and these are questions that were called in to our questions and comments line. And so this is just a fun new thing that we're trying out. And I love hearing from you guys and really getting this new level of being able to interact and hear what's on your mind. Right. And so we're going to start off today with our first round of this, and I'm excited to hear what you think. So go ahead and drop a comment below this or call the line, and the line is below.
Hi, this is Denise. There are so many diets out there, and I'm really tired of starting and stopping. Is there one that is healthier and one that is more realistic and that doesn't make me feel super horrible?
Denise, that is such a good question. And I feel you. Fad diets are the worst. And they're the worst because they actually hook us, right? We actually get sold on the idea that like, this is the answer. And like by just eating cabbage soup or whatever it is, and you name the diet, I've done it. We feel like this is what's going to give us that body that we want, right? And this is going to make, this whole puzzle of like, how do I lose weight? What do I eat? It's just going to solve that for us. But then, Denise, it doesn't work. Fad diets never work. And it's like, we know this logically, but then emotionally, we just get carried away and we get invested in trying something new. And then that does lead to that starting and stopping that you referred to, instead of getting into a groove of really healthy eating. So the answer, Denise, which you probably already know, is no more fad diets, right? We're just going to get off the fad diet train. We're done with that. We're going to jump off. And it's really ultimately about changing your relationship with food. And this is like, hey, let's just go back to basics. And there's a reason that the basics are there, and it's because they work. So what do you do instead of a fad diet? Number one, start incorporating some fasting into your lifestyle. And this doesn't have to be anything huge. I feel like the word fasting can be so scary for so many of us when we haven't tried it. But this is something that, humans have been doing since the dawn of man, having periods of time where we don't eat anything. And so whether this just be having 18 hours in between your last bite at dinner and when you break your fast for breakfast the next day, right? Instead of eating right when you wake up, maybe waiting until 11 or 12, later in the day to then start eating. And during that time, not taking in anything that's going to spike your blood sugar, not drinking sugary coffee, not drinking a smoothie, not drinking juice, just drinking water, and allowing your insulin to be regulated and for your body to drop some of the weight, right? So that's my first thing, is just incorporate some fasting into your day. And then even just not eating or drinking sugary things in between meals, right? We can get a good 6 hours or more in between meals. And this just allows our body to really regulate our weight. So that's the first thing. The second thing is really stay away from packaged foods. And it's so funny because the fad diets that we get all sucked into are usually around some form of packaged food, right? Because these fad diets are typically created so that we will buy stuff. And really going back to basics, it's about eating fresh foods, right? So eating those fruits and vegetables, eating those whole grains when you do eat carbs, having that healthy organic dairy, having nuts and seeds and healthy meats and eggs, right? Things that don't come in a brightly colored package and that weren't made in a factory, right? You don't want stuff that comes from a processing plant. And it's tough these days because there's so much of that processed food out there and it's engineered to taste good. And so just as much as you can, most of the food that you put in your body should be whole, organic, nutritious food. The next thing is really prioritizing protein, right? And again, this isn't a fad diet that we're talking about. This is just changing your relationship with food. So the number one thing you're going to focus on is getting protein in at each of your meals and making sure that this is a high quality source of protein. So the next thing that's really important to get a lot of in your diet to really prioritize is fiber. And fiber actually has a really positive impact on our insulin sensitivity, which is something that we've talked about on this show, and we will talk more about with my new book coming out, How to Not Get Sick, which you can find on Amazon. But yeah, including fiber with your meals is a great way to really keep the weight off, but it's also just healthy because the items that have fiber, you know, they're full of vitamins, they're full of different minerals, they're healthy for our digestive tract. And so just overall, this is kind of like eating things with natural fibers, like the opposite of eating these packaged, engineered foods, right? And so that's going to have this positive overall impact on your weight and the way that you feel. Not being afraid of fat. And that's another thing, depending on what generation you're from. For me, like, you know, in the 90s, I was really paying attention to wanting to lose weight in high school. And the media was like, fat is bad. Don't eat anything with fat in it. And so really reversing that narrative and making sure that you're getting enough healthy fat in your diet. The next thing is really controlling carbohydrates. So not going crazy with carbs, making sure that you're eating healthy carbs, right? Those complex carbs. We're staying away from sugar. We're staying away from artificial sweeteners. And in this way, just changing the way that we look at food, the relationship that we have to food shifts. And this is, you know, very different than a fad diet that you're going to start and stop. This is a way that you're going to relate to food, the way you're going to fuel and nurture your body, and there's no reason to ever stop. And the final thing, and this is so important for all of us, is really to not drink sugar. And it's not as easy as it sounds because in the day of Starbucks and smoothies and all of these different refreshing beverages that are out there, most of them have sugar and most of them have way more sugar than you think, right? And so just making it a habit to not drink things that have sugar calories in them, because doing that throughout the day can really negatively impact our weight, our health, push us towards insulin resistance. And so again, this is not a fad diet. This is just a new way to look at food. And Denise, I hope that helps. I hope that you can kind of try on this new way of looking at food as a lifestyle and really put down that idea that like fad diets have the answer, because why would there be so many if any of them worked, right? So thank you for that question, Denise.
Hi, Diana. I love your show. This is Sharon here, and I'm a mother of 3 that works full-time. I find myself extremely overwhelmed trying to keep up with the kids' schedules and my family schedules and my own work and my own health. And I'd love some tips on how to stay motivated and keep from getting extremely overwhelmed.
Sharon, that is such a good question. And oh my gosh, you have so much on your plate, right? You're working full time. You have 3 children. Let's just take a moment to acknowledge everything that you do. That is, you're carrying so much. And so first off, I just want to applaud you for all that you are. And to notice, like, that's a lot, right? And it's normal for that to feel like a lot because it is. And you didn't mention it, but I'm sure there's also, you have to do things around the house as well. You've got to do the laundry, and there's dishes and there's meals. There's so much more that goes into everything that you're responsible for. And so it makes sense there are moments where we do feel overwhelmed, right? But what do we do to prevent this overwhelm from really being the state that we live in? And so I do have some ideas for you, Sharon, that I hope are helpful. And I am speaking as a mother and as someone who works a lot as well. So this is coming from some experience in my own life. But number one is self-care. And, I've done episodes on self-care, and I feel like we need a different term for it, because self-care is a term that just gets thrown around and almost just like, I don't know, we just don't take it seriously. But as I have gotten to a place in my life where I really have a lot of balance and way less overwhelm than I did in the past, and I look and I'm like, what do I attribute this to? Like, what am I doing now that's allowing me to feel like this calm inside, like the calm in the storm is inside of me, which is pretty amazing when you kind of feel like life can be kind of chaos, but if you're kind of carrying that calm in the middle of the storm with you, you don't feel like you're in chaos. And I think one of the big things that I've shifted towards over the past few years really is self-care, and prioritizing that in a way where it's part of my life and it's a non-negotiable. And also factoring it in a way that doesn't take big chunks of time, because Sharon, there aren't big chunks of time in your day. There aren't. And so I think when we kind of put self-care in this category of like, this is another thing I need to do and I need to block time, it doesn't happen. But I'll share a few ways that I have self-care in my day-to-day that don't take a lot of time. And they're going to sound really simple, but when you find, your own ways to do this, what they're doing is they're creating this sense of calm and this sense of peace in me every time I do them. And that's what we need, right? We need to be that calm in the center of a storm. So a very simple one is I get these lavender scented wipes, and I keep them in my purse, and they're in my car. They're everywhere. And I take these moments. So if I was working and now I'm getting into my car to come home, I'll take a wipe out. And number one, it smells really good, and it's like sanitizing and all of that. But I take those few seconds to like wash my hands and maybe like wash my face as I'm sitting there, as I'm kind of like putting like the work stuff behind me and transitioning, like I'm going to drive home now. And Sharon, you know what this is like, right? Because the work isn't done when you leave work for you. You have 3 kids at home. So you're transitioning though. It's a different Sharon that has to show up at home than just left work. And so for me, those lavender scented wipes, for one, I love lavender, and I really love things that smell good. And so that immediately kind of already puts me at a state of calm. And then there's something to the ritual of it too, right? There's like I was at work, now I'm in the car, it's almost like a cleansing that just takes me 5 seconds, and it does something to create that calm. The next thing, when I get home, I take off my shoes, and I have these, they're Crocs. They're like these Crocs slides that are really squishy. Like it's like so luxury when I put my feet in them, and it just lets my nervous system know, lets my body know, like, hey, you're not at work anymore. Like, you're at home now. You're in your safety. And yeah, guess what? There's still things to do, right? There's still dinner to make. There's still things to clean. There's still kids to take care of, all of that. But my body, my system is in this more peaceful, calm mode. Then when I move into the kitchen, I have candles that I light, right? And these are such simple little things, but it's so baked into my routine. And each time that I do one of them, and you notice like there's a bunch of them, right? Like I did the lavender in the car, and then I do this thing where I put my hair up in a bun, which also lets me know like, okay, that work is done. Now I'm transitioning into like home life. putting the squishy slides on, lighting a candle, right? There's all these different things that overall create this sense of calm that you're just carrying with you. So Sharon, hopefully this helps, and hopefully you can kind of think, like, how can I create these little moments of self-care throughout my super busy day as a way of creating my own peace and calm and just a little few seconds of enjoyment, right? Just letting your nervous system get into that place of like rest and relax and like just a little bit of a letting go, right? Just a little bit of expansion that you're allowing into your day.
Hi, I'm Pamela. I'm currently going through a divorce, and I'm trying to make sure that my kids' spirits stay as positive as possible. How can I keep them encouraged and keep positive, even though there's a lot of toxic and crazy things going around them within the divorce?
Pamela, that's a really good question. And I'm sorry to hear that you're going through a divorce. That sounds like you're using the word toxic. So I'm guessing that it's pretty draining for you emotionally. And it sounds like you don't want that to impact your kids, which makes sense, right? You want your kids to have a positive experience and not to really get kind of like drawn into this negative situation. So that is a tough one. And my heart goes out to you in this situation. So the first thing that I would say is really control what you can, right? And you're in a situation where you can control yourself. You cannot control what your ex does or what's happening with your ex, but you can control yourself and your own energy, right? And being very aware of the energy that you are creating as it relates to this part of your life. And how much of your energy are you investing in the negative versus how much energy are you investing in the positive parts of your life? And so this is a really important part of making sure that the negativity that sounds like has been happening between you and your ex doesn't, really infiltrate the rest of your life. And you mentioned, not wanting it to negatively impact your kids. Well, the fact is, kids pick up on everything. And like, that doesn't matter what age they are. Like, the bottom line, the kids are going to pick up on everything because they're so in tune with our energy. And so if you are dwelling on the negativity or maybe complaining to others about it, or just allowing yourself to get sucked into this, the negativity that comes with conflict, that is a choice, right? And sometimes this can be one of those really difficult things to really stand back and admit, like, hey, I do have a choice of allowing this to really ruin my day, put me in a negative headspace, to wallow in negative emotions, right? We do have this choice of where am I going to take my energy? Where am I going to direct it? So Pamela, while this is a very difficult situation, let's control what you can. And what you can focus on is taking care of your side of the street. And your side of the street, you can plant flowers and it can be sunny and you can water the lawn and it can be a beautiful place, right? You don't have to let negativity from other parts of your life really infiltrate you and your energy. And it is a choice. And this is one of those things where we have to take a step back and humble ourselves to take responsibility for our energy and for the emotions that we invest in, the thoughts that we invest in, right? If something upsetting happened with your ex and you spend your energy focusing on that, thinking about that, allowing negative emotions to kind of fester on that, it will bleed into, your children's experience of you, because these kids are picking up on everything, right? And so taking responsibility for your thoughts, taking responsibility for where am I going to direct my attention right now. And when you're with your kids, you can make sure that you're directing your attention to the positive things in life. You want them to have a positive upbringing, and I can tell that you really love your kids. And so there's a lot of love there. And what a positive thing to put your attention on, right? The love that you have with your kids, and not allowing your thoughts and your emotions to go there with the negative things that are happening in your life. And while it's a difficult thing to do, it really starts with just taking that accountability and putting down this role of a victim, because it's very natural in situations like this to feel in some way like we're a victim in some way, right? Like the other person has done something to us. And the victim role is so tempting to take on, but ultimately in that role, we're sitting in the negative thoughts, we're sitting in the negative emotions, and we're allowing this negative energy to just be around us. And that's the piece that you're not willing to do, because you're the one that's looking out for your kids. And so taking that responsibility to focus on what you're grateful for, focus on the love you have with your kids, and making your side of the street as beautiful as you can make it. Thank you all for your questions today. I really enjoyed interacting with you in this way and answering your questions. Hopefully you got something out of that. And if you're listening and you're thinking, man, I've got some questions, please call the number that we have, and I would love to connect with you on another episode. So thank you for watching. Like, subscribe, and please come back next week where we will have another message.